Tesla's electric vehicles have been trailblazers in the automobile industry. Their release to the market was a major inflection point for how cars are made, and you might say that this is the biggest turning point for cars since the Model T. But how can we really compare Henry Ford to Elon Musk? That's the question we'll be answering today. First up, the dawn of the Ice Age. There's a misconception that the Model T was the first car ever made. That isn't true. The first ever automobile was a steam-powered contraption built in 1672. But there's a reason why people have that misconception. Ford's Tin Lizzie wasn't the first car, but it was the first car that the average person could own and use. Cars before that were expensive and hard to own, but the Model T was the car that sold the most units until it was overtaken by the good old Beetle in 1972. Why was the Model T so popular? The reason was that Ford had successfully combined a reasonable price tag with reliable quality. Henry Ford's innovation wasn't the internal combustion engine, it was the assembly line. Thanks to the streamlined production process, Ford's factories could output more cars than their competitors. The high volume helped to bring costs down, making the Model T accessible to all. Indeed, assembly lines are still used in all kinds of industries today, and you could argue that the world we live in, where cars are taken so for granted, was made possible by the Model T. This is where we draw the comparison between the Ford Model T and Tesla Model 3, besides the fact that the names rhyme. Next we have electric for bever. The idea of an electric car is a lot older than you might think. It is said that the first ever electric car was created by Robert Anderson in the 1830s. 20 years before the Model T became available, Thomas Parker built a battery electric vehicle with rechargeable batteries. Clearly though, in an era when electricity transmission through AC hadn't been invented, electric cars were way ahead of their time. Historical records show that electric cars have existed on the peripheries of the automobile industry for centuries. But thanks to Henry Ford's innovations, it was always easier and cheaper to build combustion engine cars. It's only in recent years that advances in battery technology have made the concept of a battery electric vehicle more viable. Although Tesla's original Roadster was the first highway legal battery electric vehicle, you can't quite say that they invented the electric car, nor did they figure out any way to boost their production. Elon Musk has done what Henry Ford did, but the way he's done it is pretty different. He hasn't had to invent anything like an assembly line, but the man has a flair for showmanship, a sort of millennial Steve Jobs. But the way his company has marketed Tesla and hailed it as the future of cars has resonated with consumers. And while Teslas aren't cheap by any means, they're still affordable enough that Tesla has put loads of Model 3s and Ys on the road. He's also shown the world why they need to own electric cars. It's understandable enough that they're good for the environment, but that might not be enough to convince people to invest in a Tesla. You know what might convince them? The fact that, according to Consumer Reports, the lifetime savings in electric car ownership make them a far better investment than a combustion engine car. And the market has responded. Electric cars are selling faster than companies can make them. Established brands are pivoting to electric, and governments have announced plans to phase out gas-powered cars for good. In a way, the story of ICE cars is coming full circle. Henry Ford put those cars within the reach of the everyday man, and by doing something similar, Musk may have triggered the end of the Ice Age. So it goes, as they say. And now for one key difference between Musk and Ford. While Elon Musk has made a very Fordy impact on the automobile industry, he may not be the biggest benefactor of his own achievement. See, there is a difference between Ford and Musk. One man managed to build an automotive juggernaut, and the other isn't doing a great job of it. Anyone who's ordered a Tesla has a horror story about receiving it. The truth is that Tesla can't cope with the demand they've created for their own cars. They're struggling to fill orders, and the strained production is holding them back from pursuing some other innovative ideas that Tesla has come up with. Where's the Cybertruck? The Tesla Semi? Tesla has launched a car into space, but there won't be any time for those cars until Tesla reaches a good production level for their promised new Roadster. The rest of the industry is catching up while Tesla struggles. Ironically, Ford has become one of Tesla's biggest competitors in the BEV world. They're poised to deliver a pickup truck before Tesla manages to start producing theirs. And for what it's worth, the F-150 Lightning doesn't look as strange as the Cybertruck does. Tesla will also have to deal with startups trying to carve their own place in this strange new era of automobiles. But let's be real, Tesla's struggles may suck for them, but all this innovation and competition is a net positive for everyone: consumers, employees, and every person living on Earth. Say what you will about the Doge father who's trying to buy Twitter, he's brought forth a seriously positive change for us all. Next, in other news, Tesla's upcoming stock split. If hearing the story of how Elon Musk is the new innovator in cars inspired you to buy some Tesla stock, this might be your chance. The company has just announced board approval for a 3-for-1 split split of their stock. This means that the number of shares will triple, and that will cause the share price to be slashed to a third. Current shareholders in Tesla need not panic though. Their portfolio won't lose value. There will just be a lot more TSLA in there than there was before. Stock splits like the one Tesla is considering usually have the goal of bringing down the share price to attract new investors who were holding off due to the expense. Tesla also explained that they wanted their employees to be able to manage their own stock in the company and attract retail investors as well. Does this mean you should buy it? Tesla stock is pretty valuable and a hot commodity on the tech stock exchange. However, it does tend to fluctuate based on the antics of the company's CEO. You'll have to balance the new and attractive price with whatever the impact of Musk's dance with Twitter will be. We're not really in the financial advice game, and there are smarter people out there with a better answer to that question. And now, Ford clarifies their EV sales model. There were quite a few ruffled feathers out there when Ford seemed to announce that their electric vehicles wouldn't be available to buy from dealerships, instead of selling them online at non-negotiable prices. CEO Jim Farley had to clarify what exactly Ford's plan was regarding EV sales. Apparently, what he meant by 100% online was referring more to the back end of the business than the complete EV purchasing experience. You can still go to the dealership, check out an EV, and buy it. It's just that your transaction will be processed online. This is in addition to the fact that you can simply order your car online and have it delivered to you. What he hasn't clarified yet is whether the non-negotiable pricing will apply in brick-and-mortar dealerships as well. We're all pretty used to buying cars at physical dealerships, but they've been a source of controversy as well. In the US, Ford's home country, there's no end to testimonials from customers who have been ripped off by dealerships. Automobile companies would probably prefer to control their entire shopping experience for their cars, but for a while there, it seemed like Ford was taking too big a step too soon. Finally, should you buy an EV today? The answer to that question is usually no if you have a car that's working well for you right now. If you're in the market for a new car though, an electric vehicle has never been a more attractive option. As we mentioned before, electric vehicles have been shown since 2020 to be a wiser long-term investment than gas cars. They're more expensive up front, but the savings in fuel and maintenance were significant. But those factors have been magnified since then by the current spike in gas prices. In the US and many other countries, gas prices have risen to all-time highs. People are being forced to leave their cars parked and come up with solutions on how to make their daily commutes while saving on fuel. Some have invested in bicycles and motorcycles. Others are carpooling and using public transit. We wouldn't recommend selling your car now since people will be unwilling to pay the real worth of a gas car. It's true that the gas price hike is being caused by temporary circumstances, but that was also true of past spikes. We were sort of resigned to our fate the last few times it happened because there was no alternative, but there is one now. An EV would suit the needs of most car owners perfectly fine, without leaving them vulnerable to the slings and arrows of volatility in the oil and gas market. Consider making your next car an electric one. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.